you must report to your supervisors immediately the hazards that you are unable to correct. Good day everyone, so welcome to another health and safety topic. So this is Engineer Vic John Potot, and we will be discussing today OSHA's standard 1926, 29 CFR Code of Federal Regulation 1926 of OSHA. So meaning this is a construction industry regulations and standard. So the topic that we will be covering today is a requested topic by one of our viewers, and it is all about excavations. So excavation is subpart P of this standard. So we will look into this and we will try to cover the important things that we need to learn, the basic things that we need to learn and understand about excavation in your construction site. So let's start by defining what is excavation. So in this textbook, okay, in this standard, excavation is defined as any means, any man-made cut, cavity, trench, or depression in an earth surface formed by earth removal. That's basically the definition of OSHA when it comes to excavation. So let's start. What is the role of a competent person when it comes to excavation? Now, if you remember, in OSHA, they define competent person as any person who has the right training, the right knowledge, the right experience, and has the ability to identify the hazards in any construction activities and has the authority to be able to eliminate these hazards or stop the work whenever there's a danger to the workers. And since we are talking about excavation, the competent person is expected to have an understanding and knowledge and training when it comes to the soil classification, the use of protective systems, and of course the content of the OSHA's requirement of subpart P or the excavation standards. Basically, this competent person must inspect the excavation sites, okay, the surroundings of the excavation sites, the protective systems that have been implemented, if there are hazards identified during his inspection, he is expected to take measures in eliminating these hazards if it can be eliminated, or otherwise he has to request the working party to evacuate the area until the hazard is rectified. In excavation, there are 6 hazards that we need to look into. The first hazard is cave-in. The second hazard is falls. Okay? Obviously, if there's an excavated area, there's a potential for workers to fall. The third hazard is the falling loads. The fourth hazard is the hazardous environment. Okay, we will expound that later. And the fifth hazard is the mobile equipments or the vehicles or any equipments around the construction area. The last but not the least hazard is the underground utilities. So let's go into this one by one. First hazard is cave-in. Now, cave-in is the greatest hazard when it comes to excavation. It basically means, when we say cave-in, it's a natural reaction of any excavation. If there's any void in earth surface, the natural tendency of the earth is to cave in. So we need to make sure that we provide the proper protective systems when we are doing excavations. Now, you have to remember that in OSHA, if the excavation is 5 feet deep or more, then you need to have a protective systems in place. If it is less than 5 feet, the competent person, of course, has to still evaluate the situation or the condition of the excavation, and he has to make sure that it is safe for the workers to work on. Since we are talking about cave-in, let's now discuss right away the protective systems that we can implement in order for us to prevent the cave-ins. Of course, the protective systems is dependent on the type of soil that is being excavated in your construction site. So there are three protective systems that is written in the standard in which your competent person can identify what is the appropriate protective systems that can be implemented. The first protective system is what we call the support or shoring system. The second system that can be used to protect cave-in is the sloping or benching type of protective systems. The last but not the least, so that's the third one, is the shielding systems or the trench backs. So these are the three types of protected systems that can be implemented in order to prevent cave-ins. In theory, for these protective systems to work, it should be designed and installed correctly. These protective systems prevents the movement of the excavation walls from caving in. Now, in order for these protective systems to do its job, your workers must stay inside this protective system at all times when they are working in an excavation. The second hazard in excavation is falls. It's pretty obvious that there is a void in Earth's surface, and any person or any worker can fall into that void area of the Earth's surface if there is no protective systems in place. And what are the basic protective system when it comes to falls? Obviously, it's a guardrail system. So as much as possible, we need to provide a guard system that would prevent people from falling into the excavated area. Or we need to make sure that there is a proper access when this excavation is a passage of pedestrian traffic. So this will ensure that the people who are working on site are protected from falling. In excavation, we have also to understand, or the competent person must recognize the danger of excavation if there are adjacent structures. The moment you start excavating, you are removing the stability of that surrounding. Now, that structure might be affected and it might become unstable. And sometimes it can lead to collapse of structures such as buildings or posts. Another hazard in excavation is the underground utilities. Okay. Underground utilities can be an electrical system underground the earth surface. It can be a gas system. There's a pipeline underground the surface. It can be a water system, a water pipeline that is available or that is present underground of the area where you excavate. So basically, the control that you need to implement is to ensure that the area to be excavated have been evaluated and inspected. Now, there are so many ways or means of identifying whether the area to be excavated has presence of underground utilities. You can either coordinate with the municipality, or you can either coordinate with the company or the community who owns those areas and help you identify whether there are existing underground utilities on that areas. Now there are other means. There are devices that can detect presence of pipes underground, electrical systems, so on and so forth. So you have to coordinate whoever owns that land before starting excavation. And that's the only way for you guys to be protected from underground utilities. Now, how does it happen? Why we need to identify underground utilities? It's obvious. When there is an underground utility, for example, there is a gas line, and you are doing this excavation, the moment your excavator hit the pipeline of the gas, there will be a gas leak. And if there is an ongoing hot work activity, then that is a very situation wherein the explosion may happen. And that's not what we wanted to occur when we are doing such type of activities. That's why underground utility is a hazard when it comes to excavation. Another hazard in excavation is the spoil pile. Okay? In OSHA standard, it is stated that as much as possible, spoil, the portion where the earth's surface has been excavated, it needs to be at least minimum of 2 feet away from the excavated area. If you have enough space in your excavation area, of course you can move the spoil pile farther so that it will not have the potential to add more weight to your excavation that may lead to cave in. Another hazard is mobile equipment. This refers to vehicles that passes through your work area. Normally in construction, there will be so many mobile equipment that will pass through your areas. And you have to make sure that your excavation is properly protected from this mobile equipment. Because if there are no protections, there will be tendencies, and I'm telling you, there are so many recorded incidents wherein a truck fell directly to the excavation because there were no barriers. There were instances that a forklift fell into the excavation because there were no barriers or stopper. So if there are workers working inside the excavation and a truck fell into them, definitely a serious injury or even death will happen if the workers will be struck by the truck that fell into your excavation. And you don't want that to happen. So provide barriers to protect your workers from mobile equipment. Another hazard in excavation is hazardous atmosphere. Now, some people may ask this question like, how this hazardous atmosphere happens? Well, it depends on the work environment where your excavation is located. But sometimes hazardous atmosphere occurs when there are presence of gases in your nearby excavated areas. If you remember, gases has different properties. Okay, there are gases that are heavier than air. It has the tendency to go to the lowest level in the surface, earth surface. Imagine if you have an excavation and there is a gas that requires, and there is a presence of gas that is heavier than air, there is the tendency that this gas will seep through your excavation and will stay there, will stay inside the excavated area. And probably it might have the potential to displace oxygen from the excavation. And once oxygen is displaced, then your excavation area would be oxygen deficient. That's one scenario. Another situation of a hazardous atmosphere is that when you are using petrol operated pumps, because there are presence of water, and then you need to remove this water by pumping it out. By using a petrol sump pump or pumps, it produces carbon monoxide due to combustion. If you neglect this carbon monoxide that is being generated by the pump, this accumulates inside the excavation, and we know that carbon monoxide is a hazardous gas. And once your workers are exposed to it, then it will definitely affect them over a long period of time, as it replaces oxygen inside your excavation. So these are just example of hazardous atmosphere. Another hazard that I have mentioned earlier is water accumulation. Sometimes when we are doing excavation, we sometimes hit the water table on that area. Once we hit the water table in the area, there will be presence of water. And if there is water accumulation, it can cause drowning to our workers. So we have to plan properly when this type of situations happens. Another thing that we need to consider when it comes to excavation is to provide proper access and egress. There should be a means for entry and exit for workers. Now, OSHA states that for every 25 feet, okay, length of an excavation, there should be an available access for workers. Now, it can be a ladder, it can be a piling of bags that is properly arranged to ensure that is a suitable means of access. It can any form of access as long as it is designed or approved by your competent person. The falling object is another hazard in excavation. We have to make sure that the workers are wearing hard hats. Falling objects can be in the form of a stone, which is being hit by a mobile equipment that's passing through the area, or it can be any other flying debris that may have the potential to struck by workers who are inside the excavation. So, those are the basic things or basic information that you need to learn or understand about excavation. Now, as an employer, you have to make sure that there must be a pre-plan for the work. You must make sure that you have a competent person who will perform the inspection, the evaluation of the excavation. As an employer, you must protect the workers from these cave-ins and other excavated-related hazards. As an employer, you need to take prompt action when a hazard is identified. And as an employer, you need to respond and correct hazards pointed out by you or your workers. And of course, you being part of the workforce or as a working party, you must work defensively. You must follow your company's excavation plans and procedures and rules. You must correct the hazards that you are able to see. And of course, you must report to your supervisors immediately the hazards that you are unable to correct. So that's it for this video, guys. I hope that you learned something new today. And as usual, don't forget to subscribe to my channel, press that like button, press that bell button so that you will be notified whenever there will be new videos that I am uploading. So thank you for subscribing and hope you continue to share the video to others. And I hope to see you again in another health and safety topic. Have a good day. and bye bye.